Hey, decision makers, today's episode is sponsored by Anchor. If you haven't heard of Anchor, it's the easiest way to start a podcast. Let me explain. One, it's free. Boom. Amazing right off the bat, right? Two, there's a creation tool that allows you to edit your recordings right on your phone or computer. If what has stopped you from starting a podcast is that you think it would be too complicated, Anchor makes it easy for you to publish your first episode today, even if you're not techie. Number three, Anchor will distribute your episodes for you at a click of a button. The moment I hit publish, I'm on 9 different platforms, including Apple, Spotify, Google, Stitcher, and many more. Number four, the other amazing thing about Anchor is that you can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership, meaning you can start making money from your podcast on day one. Anchor is everything you need to start a podcast in one place. With that being said, if you have ever wanted to start a podcast, download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Hey, decision makers, if anxiety and depression keep you up at night, then this episode is a must for you. Welcome to the Deep Dive into Health podcast, where each month we dive deep into a health topic such as sleep, productivity, sex, and diet, to name a few, with the goal of becoming the best version of ourselves with daily interviews. Now, before we get started, repeat after me. I play all out. I see opportunities where others see impossibility. I contribute to something bigger than myself. I stay focused and take massive action. I am unstoppable. I am a decision maker. Hey, decision makers, today's episode is brought to you by Audible. If you haven't heard of Audible, it's the easiest way to listen to audiobooks. If you don't have an Audible account currently, you can get a free audiobook today and a 30-day free trial to Audible as well. If you don't like it, which I doubt it, you can cancel before the 30 days are up and still keep the book. Isn't that amazing? There's a huge range of titles available, but I highly recommend you read Atomic Habits by James Clear. It's the closest thing to a must read. Learn an easy and proven way to build good habits and break bad ones. Audiobooks are a great tool. We're constantly on the move, right? Well, with Audible, there's no need to sit down. You can listen while you're driving, exercising, taking a shower, pretty much anything. My favorite is while I'm doing chores around the house, like cleaning dishes. I honestly now look forward to putting clothes away because it's my time to learn. Another great thing about Audible is the ability to listen across several devices without losing your spot. I don't know about you, but I hate when I lose my spot in my book. Get your free audiobook and start your free 30-day Audible trial by going to audibletrial.com/John. Once again, that's audibletrial.com/YOHN. All right, decision makers, before we kick into today's episode, I have a special gift just for you. For many years, I learned. I would read books and take courses, but my life was still the same. Over and over, I would hear the quote, "Knowledge is power." And then one day I heard Tony Robbins say, "Knowledge is not power." And it hit me like a lightning bolt. Knowledge is not power. It's what you do with that knowledge and the actions that you take that will change your life. It took me years, but now I have an action-taking system, and my life has never been the same. I believe this will change your life too. Go get your free action-taking system at johndiaz.com. Again, that's YOHN DIAZ. Once again, that's YOHN DIAZ.com and download your free gift. Oh, and you'll also receive a weekly email with a summary of what the episodes for that week are going to be all about. I'm so excited about today's guest. Dunni's passionate about self-care and wellness. Roles includes life coach, family doctor, teacher, influencer, and mother. She supports busy people who are grieving to use grief as a catalyst for creating the abundant life they desire and deserve while enhancing self-care and wellness. If you want to learn more about Dunni, you can go to druaacademy.com, but she will share more of that during the interview. But with that being said, Dunni, welcome to the Deep Dive into Health podcast.
Thank you.
Dunni, I'm so excited to have you today. And the first thing I always ask my audience, my guests is, what are you most grateful for right now?
Well, I'm most grateful for being alive. Yeah. Oh gosh, the gift of life is priceless.
It's priceless, right? Yeah. Sometimes we
It
take it
is.
for granted, and I love that. So, thanks for sharing that. And the next thing that I would love to hear is, what are you most excited about right now?
Well, most excited about let's see. Oh, yes, I have got some news from my sister, and it's supposed to be a surprise.
Okay.
So I'm quite excited because I'm going to be speaking to her later today. So I'm just like, oh my goodness, what's she going to say? So that's what's really kind of making me have the little tumbles in my tummy.
Yeah, oh no, that's awesome. Cool. It's always awesome to give, especially to give to someone that we love, right? So like those that we know the best
Yeah.
always makes us feel the best. So with that being said, Dunni, I do want to ask you. Let's get started with your story. And can you tell us about who you were before you became this life coach and the expert? Where were you? What's your backstory?
Well, I was in a very unhappy marriage,
Mm,
but I tried to do everything within my power to just make it work. If they say jump, I'll say how high. If they say roll in the mud, I'll keep rolling until they tell me to stop, that kind of thing. But it just kept going on, and that was fine. Then one day, the night when it came to an end, I was devastated. I didn't know what to do. I was just broken, crushed completely. And then I, I wanted to call my dad because my dad always knows what to do. He always knows what to say. He's like the person that advises everyone. Alas, he was dead. He had died the month before. And that day was meant to have been his birthday.
wow.
At that point, I was completely crushed. I it's like I was just thrown into a deep pit. Um, and I just kept going down, like there was no bottom to it. I wept so hard. And the next morning, when I woke up, I was on the landing. I don't even know how I got there.
Wow.
Um, and I thought it was a bad dream. Uh, but when I realized it wasn't a bad dream, the next thing was to check on my children. And I went there and saw both of them fast asleep. And I started having this sensation, butterflies in my tummy, a kind of turmoil. It was just coming up my chest. I was having palpitations. My palms were sweaty. I felt faint. Um, I was scared, and there was this voice in my head telling me how much of a failure I was. And at that point, looking at these children, I started to shed tears. And I made a promise. I said I was going to be the best mother they'll ever have. And I would not let this situation have any adverse effect on them. But I didn't know how I was going to do that.
Of course.
Um, so there I was. I did what I knew best. um, I love to read, always learning.
Mhm.
But this time around, I just felt the best thing for me to do is to seek help. I felt alone because obviously with any breakup in marriages, all your friends kind of either take sides or just avoid you.
Of
So I had
course.
no one, no support system. So this is me working full-time as a doctor. At that point, I was in the emergency department and I had my two little children. I was working full-time and everything. The only time I had to study was night time when they were fast asleep and when I was not on call. So I just kept studying and studying. I lost 3 dress sizes. I wasn't sleeping well, obviously. It was just a difficult situation. I didn't know the way forward. I was constantly scared. And then one night when I was studying, the penny dropped. I got these questions and I was just writing furiously. It was like, oh my God, now I have an idea of what I'm going to do. I just had a path put in front of me and it was just questions. So I
Can you
wrote those
share some of those?
questions
Yeah,
down.
can you share some of those
Yeah,
questions with us, please? Yes.
yeah, sure. So basically, the first question was, what it came as a story, and I'll have to tell you the story for you to
Okay,
understand.
perfect.
Um, so imagine you had a bunny, okay? Oh, rather, you have a friend who has a bunny, and the friend is going abroad, and so he gives that bunny to you and says, "Will you take care of this bunny And when I come back, I will get him back from you. I'll just be gone for a few weeks. Just that's not too long. And you say, sure. So you take that bunny and then you take care of the bunny. Now, at some point, you don't hear from your friend. Days pass, it becomes weeks, it becomes months, and you're bonding with this bunny. Then suddenly you get a phone call after many years, and your friend goes, right, oh gosh, how are you doing? I'm so sorry, I've not been in touch. And so would you really, I really need to see you, but I'll talk when we get there. Is the bunny still with you and everything? Are you guys doing? Oh, we're doing great. Awesome. And within 5 minutes, your friend comes and says, oh, it's been a while, I'm so sorry, it's just been difficult, but I really have to rush now. And the bunny sees his owner and hops away onto his owner, and they both drive off.
Oh.
And that was what played in front of me. And that's exactly how it is. Everything has an end. And so the question is, the first question, how did you feel when you were with the bunny? What did you enjoy the most with being with the bunny? And then what did you not enjoy? So that situation was more like, oh my God, now I see. Because there's nothing that is permanent. I mean, if you have a job, that job could be here today and gone tomorrow. If you've got a family member, could be here today and gone tomorrow. If you've got money, it could be here today and gone tomorrow. So having a clarity, that does help a great deal. And that's why I call that the Bunny Journal, because it was a very useful tool in helping me uncover what I needed to do. So that was my first journey. And so I then went on and just continued. And then suddenly I came across a problem. I was doing great, helping people around me. But then, and then of course, I became a family doctor. And then I just had this situation whereby, obviously in the UK, we see our patients for 10 minutes. Just 10 minutes.
Just 10 minutes?
So they come in and you have to see them, give the treatment, and within 10 minutes.
Wow.
So I said, well, I don't want to do that, because I know from what I've gone through in terms of experiencing, because of what I experienced, my consultation with patients was better, my interaction with people was better, and I saw the results that were coming out, and I said no. So I decided to be my own kind of person. So when I go to a place and I say I'm going to work there, I say, well, I pick my time schedule. I want nothing less than 15-minute consultation. I want blocks in between, so that if I spill over, at least there's not many waiting.
Of course.
So I kept doing that, and it just there was that thing of, yes, being happy, helping people, but I felt limited. And that's where I had this calling that I needed to reach more people. But I'm an introvert, which sometimes does not help.
Of course, right?
And so unfortunately, I kept pushing it and just kept, you know what, it's not time. I'm so scared. I don't want to do it. I'm afraid.
Oh, Ani, let me hold you there, right? Because I think that's such an important point to make, right? A lot of us, we hear that calling, that voice, the thing that's calling us into action. And it's so scary because it's bigger than us. And we're always like, no, it's not time. I'm not ready. The time will come. You know, you're waiting for the right moment. It's like that right moment will never come. I love that. So please keep on telling us.
Okay. So one morning when I was having my morning devotion, I was reading from the Gospel of Matthew, and apparently that day we were to read from the part that had the king who had 3 servants. And so if any of your listeners not familiar with it, there were 3. The first one was given 5 talents, the second was given 2 talents, and the third was given 1 talent, and he went away. By the time the king came back, he asked his servants, right, so what has happened when I was away with all the talents I gave you? So the man with the 5 talents comes and says, oh, you gave me these 5 talents. I went and traded and I got 5 more. Here you go, 10. And he says, "Oh, good and faithful servant," and he rewarded him. The second servant comes and says, "Oh, well, you gave me 2 talents. I went and traded it. I got 2 extra. So here's 4 talents." And say, "Oh, well done, good and faithful servant." And he rewarded him. And then the third servant comes and says, "Oh, king, I'm so glad you're back. You gave me 1 talent. I was afraid, so I went to hide it. And so I've dug it up now. Here you go." And at that point, I didn't even read what the king said, because I know what the king said, but I've read it a few times. But then it hit me. I said, "God, I'm sorry. You gave me this talent and I am afraid and I hid it, and I'm sorry." So on that day, I decided to put a big foot forward where I could not go back from. And then I started taking action from then on. And that's how Drew Academy came to be.
That's amazing. I love that story. Now, with where you started, right, and where you are now, what's been the biggest achievement and that biggest where have you gone on this journey? Like, who have you become?
Oh, I think the most important thing I have learned is the power of gratitude and forgiveness. Those two. Oh my goodness. It's brilliant.
So Ani, just, oh my God, that's amazing. So obviously I want to make sure that we have time to talk about Drew Academy and you can share that with us. But first we're going to go into the next section of the podcast, which is your teaching, right? And specifically this month, we're talking about sleep and how we can improve our sleep and what sleep actually does for our life, right? So if you can just give us about 3 to 5 takeaways or breakthroughs that, right, going from grief to gratitude, what that's helped you do or how it's helped you sleep.
Okay, so basically I know how how the effect sleep has on the human body. Now, as you know, or as many people would see, there's always a balance to everything in life. Now, most times things in the human body works in cycles. So we've got when your heart beats, it pumps and it relaxes. When you breathe, you go in and out. When your cells are working, they need to work and they need to rest. Now, when you rest in terms of sleep, there's so many things that happen in your body. And I know basically in the brain, because I love the human brain. I'm actually
Fascinating,
fascinated by the human
right?
brain. And that's the time when the cleaning process happens. When you go to sleep, that's when your liver comes alive and says, "Okay, it's time to clear out all those things." So it's time that your gut gets to relax and just clean out things as well. So it's such an important thing. But unfortunately, when you've gone through a period of loss or grief, your whole system is a bit kind of turned upside down, I would say. And that's where people need to recognize the relationship between our emotions, our mind, our body. And when that happens, obviously with the chemicals that are sometimes released and all that, they can make you feel anxious. And when you're anxious, you're hyper alert. You can't sleep. When you're anxious or you're depressed, you can't shut off that system because your body is thinking that something bad is going to happen or something worse than what has happened is going to happen. And because of that, you see many people that have not got that sleep. Now, what I've discovered through obviously going through what I went through and obviously my medical training and all, is that the gift of being able to relax with settling your mind, using your body, all aspects of your body, especially your senses, and also your soul, which is the seat of your emotions. And the ways that I would suggest, so like takeaway points now to
Yes,
help
please.
with sleep will be: 1, some form of mindfulness practice. And it doesn't have to be long. Just 5 minutes is enough. Just sitting quietly and trying to focus on your breathing. Focus on the cyclical movement of your breath. And even though the thoughts keep coming, you just say, thinking. Don't go into what you're thinking about. And it just goes. Or sometimes it lingers. Either way, love yourself in that moment.
I love that.
The second one is journaling. Now, there are two journals I always tell people to have. One is a worry journal, and that's where that mind one goes in. So when you have any thoughts going through your mind, write it down. You know what it tells your brain? It tells you, I'm going to do something about it. It takes it from your head onto paper and it's like, oh, she's doing something. There's some action being taken. And then you have it there. So it's not just ruminating. And like Dr. Daniel Amen says, automatic negative thoughts running around like ants. Okay, he calls them ants. And I think I love that. So
sorry, that reminds me, I've heard Tony Robbins say that that weeds grow naturally. Like they'll always grow, right? And it's that concept, like you have to put in the positive stuff, otherwise the weeds will grow.
Absolutely, that's correct. Absolutely, 100%. Now, because they're always there, you're not going to say, I'm going to get rid of. No, you have to be able to learn to manage them. And by putting them on paper, it goes a great deal. Now, some people deal with this in two different ways. They have a list in their journal where they write, and then later they kind of go through the list of, delegates, deletes, kind of thing. Or they write it down and burn it. Some would write it down and then tear it up. So it's like, all my worries, I tear you up. So it's almost like a practice that helps them to remove that stressful scenario from them and gets it out. Now, the third thing, obviously, in relation to journaling, is a gratitude practice. Now, something I absolutely love is journaling. So I would still add the journal to the gratitude practice. Okay, so that's the second journal I normally suggest people should have. And that usually is something you can do. Whether you're laid in bed, you can just say, I'm thankful for this, for the new day, for a new month, for the gift of breath, things like that. I remember when we used to have our devotions at home when I was younger. My father would say, and so Father, because I had a very deep voice, and so Father, we come before you today. Now we thank you that we can move our hands, move our legs, move all parts of our body, and they move perfectly well.
I love that.
I still use that today with my children when we are praying.
That's great.
And it's one thing you can just be grateful for.
I love that. Matter of fact, because there was something I heard today that I love too. It's just the concept of sometimes we think so much about the big things that we forget how important the little things are, right? And that the little things become the big things. So it's, that seed that we planted, that we water becomes this huge tree, but like we have to, pay attention to it if we first plant it. So it's the little things as being able to, like in the morning, one of the things I'm always grateful for is being able to hold my wife and hug her, right? It's just like, I wake up today when she's there, the love, like there's going to be a day, like you said at the beginning, everything ends where that won't be there. So I must be grateful for it today.
Yes, absolutely. And so that gratitude is something you can say, you can write it down, but it's good when you write it. The same way, you put those worry thoughts down, the effort of writing is beautiful. And sometimes when you're feeling low, which always helps people, especially when they're grieving, pick up your gratitude journal and just go through it. It will remind you of those times, those moments you might have forgotten in the depth of that despair, in the depth of that sadness, in the depth of that grief that you're going through. Now, the fourth thing I normally suggest is prepare yourself. Okay. Now, what I mean by prepare yourself is they always say to fail to prepare is to prepare to fail. If you don't prepare to sleep, you're going to fail to sleep. So, how do you prepare to sleep? There are some things you can do in your environment to help you. And I've got this preparation schedule I normally share with people. And it's just your preparation hour. Okay. And the preparation hour is an hour before your bedtime. Okay. Now, in your preparation hour, you have 20 minutes in each segment. And the first 20 minutes is taking care of everything you would need for tomorrow. Okay, so if you go to work, get the clothes done, get the bag ready, get that report in your bag, get the schedule of whatever it is that you need to just put together. If you are a lady and you have, because we always have different bags, so make sure you put your purse in the right bag so that you don't forget it, stuff like that. If you've got children, lay their clothes out, the uniforms or whatever, or play clothes or whatever it is for the next day. So that's where that comes in. Of course, if you're one that takes food to work, you prep that as well. So that's the first 20 minutes. It doesn't usually take long. Now, the next 20 minutes is to take care of you. That's when you brush your teeth, have your bath. Usually we suggest a warm bath. Sometimes people use oils and all sorts of nice things that the smell alone can actually take you to dreamland, more or less. Some people use candles, but please don't sleep off while you're having those candles on. But yeah, all those things. So just making yourself relax, because it kind of, with the water, I'm almost going into the elements now. That's another topic for another
Don't go
day.
to sleep on me, dude.
So that the elements are just beautiful: air, water, earth. But anyway, the water helps to relax your system, and it's usually quite a good thing to have sorted before you go to bed. So maybe a wash or a bath or whatever it is that you normally would like to have. That's it. Then the third thing is where you kind of connect to source, which would be through gratitude, through journaling, through some people do some meditation, or some people it's prayer. Whatever that is for you, that's what you do in the last 20 minutes. So that's the description.
Wow, that was amazing. I hope you guys all took notes. I know I did. I'll make sure to put them in the show notes, but that was about as good as 4 breakthroughs that she can give. This is amazing. Everyone should be taking notes with this. Now, we are going to get into the next and last section of the podcast. This is our lightning round. So it's just going to be a quick sentence or two that you can answer the question. Are you ready for this?
Yes.
All right, perfect. So the first one, right? This is something that I love, and you've already given me a few quotes. So, but what's your favorite quote?
Right. My favorite is, courage is not the absence of fear, but the ability to act in spite of it.
Oh, so good. Yes, absolutely. I love that. I've heard that one before too. I love it. Perfect. And what book has had the biggest impact on your life and why?
The Power of Letting Go. Oh my goodness. That was the key to forgiveness. Because you see, when you hold on to someone in a state of unforgiveness, it's just like you drinking poison in the hope that the other person would die. That's not possible. So rather than filling yourself with poison, let it go.
I love that. I mean, just because you mentioned that, we've talked about grief. I usually share this story out loud, especially in the podcast. But my dad passed away when I was 6 months old, and I held that grief until I was 25 and I had my son. And it was more like, man, how come I didn't have this person? Why? And stuff like that. And then it all changed in a matter of a second, where I changed it to realizing, right? Like, my dad passed away when I was in Colombia. We lived in Colombia, and I had this realization that I would not be who I am today if that didn't happen. And there was a bunch of stepping stones that ended up happening because of that decision that brought me to my wife. And now I have these amazing kids. And it's like, now I'm grateful. I'm grateful that he was able to sacrifice his life for me so that I can, be the person that I am today. And it was just a little mind shift, but it was huge. And it was like grief to gratitude. So just because I know you've mentioned it, and to be fully honest, I've slept better. I've been a better everything ever since I made that shift. All right. So I just love that you share that. But let's get into the next question, right? Knowing everything that you know now, what life advice would you go back and give yourself when you were first starting this journey?
I would say to myself, enjoy every moment, live fully, and forgive.
That's beautiful. Perfect. Perfect. Nuni. Well, that was amazing. Now we get into the last section where this is my, your opportunity to share with us where we can find you, how we can interact with you, or how we can learn more about you.
So I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram. I've got a YouTube channel as well. So I normally put up videos, and my website is www.𝐒𝐻𝐫𝐢𝐻n𝐞. So obviously come in, sign up, be in touch. We always send weekly, very regular newsletters, tips of how to improve your well-being and feel better. And if you're not feeling great because you've experienced a loss, it's okay. It's not the end of the world. But if you're feeling great, it's okay. It's not the end of the world. So, but yeah. Yeah.
I
Those
love
are the
that.
places you can find me.
Yeah, so I'll put all the links in the show notes, guys. So if you guys want to learn more about Dunni and the things that she's bringing to the table, you can definitely connect with her. I'll make sure to put in the website, and everyone, I recommend that you go and check it out. Check out the 𝐒𝐻𝐫𝐢𝐻n𝐞.com. But with that being said, Dunni, thank you so much for being with us today. I really appreciate it. Are there any last, moments or comments or anything that you would love to share with us?
Thank you for having me. And I really would like everyone to know that for every moment you live on earth, know that it's a gift. Live for now. Live every moment fully. Do it for the good of yourself, of your maker, of others. Don't let the past rob you of the joy of now.
Decision makers, that was an amazing episode. I just want to thank Dunni one more time. And guys, these are the things that I took away, right? These are the ways that I believe that we can start taking action on everything that we learned from her, right? And the first thing that I thought about, right? If you're feeling that depression, that anxiety, the grief, right? Write down this question. What did you feel or enjoy in the moments that you had the person with you, or the moments of happiness, right? Talk about that and write that down and think about those moments of gratitude, right? Then the second question I wrote down that I thought was amazing that she shares, what are you worrying about? Having that worry journal and putting those things into paper so that you can either burn them or just get them out of your mind. That was absolutely amazing. And the last one, right? It's having that gratitude journal, right? What are you grateful for? Whether it's the small things, like she said that her father talked about being able to move his hands and his body parts, or if it's, the blanket, or just that it's sunny outside, being grateful just brings you present to the present moment and allows you to enjoy life. But with that being said, as always, decision makers, go and have an amazing day. Take massive action, and I will talk to you soon. Thank you so much for tuning in. I don't take your time lightly, and I appreciate that you made the decision to listen to the podcast today. Now, don't forget to subscribe to the show, and finally, please take a minute to rate and review the podcast. Once again, thank you for listening, and remember, you are a decision maker, and you are just confidence away.